We are live. Michael, welcome to the Onward podcast.
Thank you so much, Emily. It's so great to be with you and with your guest viewers.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll have some tonight. You never know. I'm going to put a banner across the bottom that says, this is our topic. We're talking about the power of a plan, P.L.A.N.
Right.
You know, it's what you've developed, which is a blueprint for reducing stress and building resilience. So I'm looking forward, and I know we all are looking forward to hearing what you have to say about that. But you're a Caribbean American inspirational keynote speaker. You're a master trainer. You're an Amazon best-selling author. You're an emotional resilience and well-being strategist. And you got your own business, and you leverage over 2 decades of business, ministry, government leadership experience. You've worked everywhere in the government. You kind of pulled it all together for this blueprint, and I look forward to hearing about it. But first, let's hear a little bit more about you.
Sure. Well, you kind of touched on some of the highlights there, and I always kind of stand back when I hear that stuff read to me. It's like, am I that guy?
I know.
But first and foremost, I'm a husband and I'm a father. First and foremost, before any of those things come into play. But as you mentioned, I'm a speaker, inspirational speaker, focusing really on helping people, leaders, build resilience and improve their well-being, and that's based on some of the things that I've experienced in life, and now I'm on a mission to actually share that. And I'm sure we'll get into all of that in a minute.
Yeah, I was gonna, say, I think, from what I've seen when I worked in the small business office, and even now with what I'm doing, people start businesses because kind of their past, or because they have a passion for something, or because they've been through something and now they want to help others through the same thing. So I was just wondering, why did you decide to? I'm guessing you've had some stress and had some situations in your life where you had to build some resilience.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. We talked about that.
Well, yeah. So I reached an inflection point in my life back in 2017, and that was really the genesis, of me starting this business, and it happened after I lost my dad in the midst of a Category 5 hurricane. You mentioned I'm a Caribbean American, proud Caribbean American. I was born on an Eastern Caribbean island called Antigua. My parents are from there originally as well. And then we moved to St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands when I was 4 years old. So I pretty much grew up in St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands. We call it America's paradise.
Oh, it is. I went there on vacation with my children right after their father died. But we rented a really nice house. It's just so beautiful there. It was a great time for us to all, right after Christmas in 2019, right before COVID hit, for us all to bond.
Yeah.
But I can just see how devastating a hurricane can be to an island like that.
Even 2 years on, because you say you went in 2019? Yeah. So 2017 was a rough, if you remember, Emily, it was a rough hurricane year for that, in that year. Multiple hurricanes hit, and some of them even hit the shores of the continental U.S. And 2 of those storms hit St. Thomas directly, in general, the U.S. Virgin Islands directly, as Category 5 storms. The first one was Irma, which came on September 6th of that year, followed by Hurricane Maria exactly 2 weeks later. And after the first hurricane hit, mind you, it had, kind of did a bunch of damage to other islands in the Caribbean. Not so much to Antigua itself, but Antigua is a twin island nation. Barbuda is the second island of that twin island nation. And pretty much this was Irma. Tore up Barbuda and went across the Caribbean and really wreaked havoc in St. Thomas, where I grew up. And communication lines went down. Emily, lost contact completely with my family until some of my friends, started a group chat, and I was desperately asking, how my family was, how my dad in particular was, how my family was, and uh, you know, reports were unconfirmed. Let's say that, and I was hoping for the best, but the worst did cross my mind. But thankfully, a few days before Hurricane Maria hit, I got a voicemail, from my dad saying, you know, um, Mike, I'm all right. I'm a little battered and bruised, but I'm okay. And that voicemail, Emily, I mean, I couldn't tell you the joy I felt in just hearing his voice, even though his voice was, was crackly. And all during that time, we were desperately trying to get him off the island, and everything, the airports were destroyed, neighboring islands, everything was destroyed. So, could not get him off. And then comes Maria. Um, on that Wednesday, I got that voicemail on a Saturday morning. Maria hit that Wednesday, and the phone call that I wished and prayed that I would never get, I actually received. And it was a phone call from a buddy of mine who I grew up with in my same street in St. Thomas. He lives in California now, calling to tell me basically that my dad was gone. And that was a obviously devastating blow, Emily, to me and to my family. At the time, immediate aftermath. I'm the eldest of three children. Had to be the strong one. So, gathered everybody up. Extended family was trying to imagine trying to plan a funeral in the midst of destruction. Long story short, we couldn't even have his funeral until we couldn't even get down there until almost a month later. So we didn't have the funeral until a month later. And it was in the period of time as I was going through the grieving process. I wanted to do something that would, one, honor his memory, and two, well, three things. One, honor his memory. Two, honor God. And three, help my island rebuild. So after exploring a bunch of different avenues, I connected with my church, who was actually planning a hurricane relief effort for Puerto Rico, because Puerto Rico had gotten hit, if you remember, from Maria, and did a lot of damage as well. And I connected with my church, say, hey, raise my hand. I want to, help the U.S. Virgin Islands, which was also hit by actually not one but two Category 5 hurricanes, to rebuild. So led a sequence of mission trips that saw volunteers go down to actually help rebuild the island throughout 2018 and even into 2019. And it was during that time of helping, my island rebuild, where it occurred to me that I just got flashbacks of all the various adversities that I had experienced in the past, in my adult life. The most recent before that was the loss of my baby girl Maya, which I can get into, but that was a huge loss. I also reflected back on just how I had experienced, early in my career, my own emotional Category 5 hurricane, if you will, where everything was damaged. I'd experienced two corporate layoffs. The second one was rough. Went through an extended period of time of unemployment. Was blessed to actually start my own business, and my first business was an actual health and fitness business. I've always been into health and fitness, working out. And I'll connect those two dots in a second in terms of how I started a business about physical fitness, and now I'm focusing on mental, emotional fitness Those dots, didn't know how they didn't know that they would connect, or how they would connect, but they've connected. But went through a period of time where I pretty much, Emily, lost practically everything. So I went through, eventually, I was married at the time. I went through a painful divorce, financial ruin, bankruptcy. And it was just, I remember, just speaking about dots connecting, Emily, I remember when we first got back to St. Thomas, um, um, with my family, and to have the funeral. And my dad died in a quite a horrific way, in terms of, the soil was already, soft from all the flooding and so forth, and the earth gave way and he actually sunk, right? And I remember going home and just looking at the hole where they found him in. And I just remember having flashbacks of thinking back, and this was all in my imagination, because obviously his body was gone and so forth, but you imagine these things about him, laying in the hole. And I just had a flashback of me actually laying in my own figurative hole, if you will. I remember myself laying in the middle of my sister's one-bedroom apartment, on the floor, looking up at the ceiling, saying, God, what's going on here? And it was those adversities, and thinking back on how I was able to overcome those adversities. And mind you, I didn't even mention this part. So when just before the hurricanes hit, we had another family kind of blow, if you will, in that my mom had been recently diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and the disease had progressed to the point where she could no longer. My dad was no longer capable of taking care of her. We had a person that would come during the day and actually take care of her, and she was beyond that point. So we had to make the tough decision to actually bring her up here to the States, into an adult memory care facility. So just all of that was going on, right, at
Wow.
this time.
I'd say if anybody's qualified to uh, build a plan, this plan that you have here, the power of a plan for building resilience, is you. Look at everything that you've overcome, and then you're here and you've got a smile on your face, and you're turning that hardship into an ability to help other people. What makes you able to do that versus be in bed depressed?
Well,
People
don't
react to these things in different ways.
different ways. Absolutely. We're all born with this thing called resilience, but it's like a muscle that you work out, and you strengthen. And for me, I'd have to say, and truth be told, completely transparent, it's not like, throughout all these times I was, stoically enduring all of this, and it didn't affect me in any way. I actually quite the contrary. I went through periods of time where, I'm, just try, and I'm sure this has happened to you as well, and others who are listening, who are experiencing, who have experienced loss, where I hear a song, and I'm a grown man. I hear the song, maybe it's something like the OJ's or the Temptations that my dad would play at home all the time, and I'm just bawling. you know I'm just bawling, and I readily admit that to the world who's watching right now. By the
That's the way of being resilient, though. The letting yourself feel your feelings and bawl like that. I do it too because I listen to some 70s music, which is just different songs that remind me of my former husband who passed away. We were divorced, but my kid's dad. And in 2019. And I still get tears in my eyes when I think about it. And my sister too, my daughter, because she helped take care of him. So she sometimes focuses on how miserable it must have been to be paralyzed in both arms and to be as sick as he was and stuff. So, but I think feeling it is a part of a way of processing it. Hi, Russ. Thanks for joining us. And yes, through it all, way to keep a great attitude, Michael. And tell us about your daughter. I mean, she was.
Yeah. So my daughter Maya. So my wife was 19 weeks pregnant, and she had to be rushed to the hospital uh, uh, for the early labor, if you will. And the doctor said they put her in this upside down position called, I believe it's called a Trendelenburg position, if I'm not mistaken, but in a position to where you try to keep the baby in. And they told us that, and as a woman, you probably already know this with children. I think 24, 25 weeks is viability. They said if she can hold on just for a few weeks, we'd be okay, relatively speaking. And Emily, during that time we prayed, and she started going into labor in week 21, at week 21. And the doctor said, well, guys, you have a 50-50 chance of Maya, which is her name, being born alive. But even if she is, she's not going to survive for long. And Emily, my wife went into labor, delivered this beautiful baby girl. The Bible says that we are fearfully and wonderfully made, and we just gazed at this beautiful creature, right? And as we gazed, we were bawling our eyes out because we knew that we only had we didn't know how long, but we know we only had a short time. So as we took turns rocking her, this tiny thing, and bawling our eyes out. And, we just felt her breath beginning to become more, shallower and shallower. And then Emily, we just felt a coldness slowly drift from her feet all the way up to the top of her head, and eventually she just stopped breathing. And we just cried our eyes out, literally, both me and my wife. And it was that experience that I look back on during my time of grieving for my dad.
Yeah.
And I derive strength from having come through that loss as well. And it was, to kind of bring it to the plan. It was, again, as I was reflecting back on all of that, is when I developed what I call my P.L.A.N resilience building blueprint, which is, as I say, a 4-step hurricane proof process to as I say, build back stronger from stress and adversity. And let me connect that build back stronger.
Category 5 hurricane strength.
There you go. That quote unquote build back stronger was a popular saying immediately after the hurricanes hit. A version of that has become more popular these days, but that saying became popular back then. And I said, well, for me, I'm going to help people, build back stronger from their emotional category 5 storms.
Yeah.
So I thought about how, I thought about exactly how I was able to overcome, these tribulations intact. And this 4-step process. Step number one is P for practice, prayer, and meditation. That's foundational. Um, and there's a whole ton of research out there, around, particularly around meditation, that talks about how it helps you reduce stress, right? So that's the P in plan: practice, prayer, meditation. The L is for lean in and listen. um, Lean in can be, it can be looked at a number of ways. Lean in and listen, because oftentimes it's difficult to hear, when you're going through stuff. It's difficult to hear and make sense, particularly hearing God's voice if you're a person of faith, right?
Mhm.
It's difficult to hear amongst the din, right? So you have to lean in and listen. Then you also have to actually lean into the adversity. I say, make adversity your advisor, not your adversary. There's
Mhm.
there's there's always something to learn, in the midst of that adversity. There's always a diamond, if you will, you know, in that, if you lean in and listen. Uh,
Okay. All right. Hold on.
yeah,
What's the diamond about Maya, your daughter's passing?
what's the diamond about mine? Well, first and foremost, let me say this. Um, some things we'll never understand, the reasoning behind why they happen, right? And I still don't understand a lot about why exactly that happened, except for the fact that, something I say all the time, um, oftentimes our struggles are not only for us but for others.
Mhm.
An old pastor of mine, used to tell me, nothing is wasted, right? So even though we lost Maya, that experience was not wasted. Why? One of the reasons why, and I can't tell you why, God decided to take her after blessing her, blessing us with her. But I can say that as a result of that loss, you know, this is one of the reasons why I'm sitting before you now. And two, I have to say this too, in terms of, that's not the end of that chapter of that story at all, because um couple years later, right, we were blessed with another baby girl. uh Her name is Malia, and next month she'll be 6. So God had a plan. Not to get too faithy or religiously, but that's, I can't help it.
It's
Folks,
fine.
I can't help it.
It's
But God had a plan. I don't know, I can't tell you exactly A to Z what that was about, but I know none of these experiences were only for me. And I'll answer that. I answer it that way, Emily.
And you also said when we were meeting, before we decided to conduct this interview, that you got to hold Maya and tell her that you love her and look her in the eyes and really
Absolutely.
be there with her. You're fortunate for that.
Absolutely. That in and of itself is a blessing. That's one of the lessons we really have to lean in and listen to, because face value, you can say this is a huge loss, right? But if you dig a little deeper, if you listen a little bit more closely, the blessing was the fact that we got to hold her for 3 hours and 6 minutes, hold her and rock her while we bawled our eyes out, but held her and rocked her. We could have been robbed of that experience, right? So even within that tragedy, there was a blessing, because she came and we held her, we looked at her, and we subsequently laid her to rest. Even had a nice ceremony. But a couple of years later, and we were ready. Just as a quick aside, for nearly that entire pregnancy, of my soon to be 6-year old, my wife was on bed rest the entire time. and tell
Wow.
and honestly, it wasn't a situation where we just knew 100% that it was it was going to go well,
Right.
considering considering the past. But we have a bouncing active 5-year-old at this time, so and that's just one of my 4 lovely daughters.
4. Wow. Wow. So how old are your kids?
So my next up from Malia is my 9-year-old, who also have a birthday next month in June. She'll be 10. Her name is Michaela, and then we have 2 older girls who I have had the privilege of raising from since they were 4 and 8 respectively.
Oh.
Samaj and Sadia. So all girls. Emily, pray for me. Folks out there, pray for me. With all these girls, okay? I need it. I need your prayers.
Yeah. Thanks, Richard. He says, wow, what a story. I think he said, God bless you both. And then Danelle, I think. I have a meeting with Danelle right after this episode's over. She says she's also a baller. I think crying is healthy when we hold it in. I say this a lot in my episodes, but I had somebody on one of my episodes that say, when you don't feel your feelings or let them come out, you shove them to the basement. They go down there and lift weights. And mine did. Mine did. They got really strong.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know what advice to give somebody who's, like I know somebody who her mom just passed away, and you just have to go through it. It's going to suck. You've got to go through the sucky part of it.
Yeah, you got to embrace the suck. But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. So there's one of the key things is the A, right? I say A for act accordingly in that plan. And we have choices to make in terms of how we want to go through and how we want to endure. And I tell you what, nothing helps the grieving process more than helping somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one way we can A for act accordingly as a part of that plan. Help somebody else. For me, it was leading that hurricane relief effort after I lost my dad to help others. For you all watching and listening, it could be something else. It doesn't have to be anything that dramatic or anything, but just the mere fact of helping someone will help you in turn.
I could say, yeah. When my son was doing drugs and alcohol from age 13 to 23, I couldn't help him. I tried, but he had to decide, right? And so my way of helping me too was to help other moms who were dealing with the same thing and going through the same shock I did, because I thought I'll take him to counseling and they'll fix him, right? And or realizing that, which is what's enabling and what's not, and just helping other people through it. When you teach something or coach somebody on something, you also learn it for yourself even more.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's
and
good.
And the last thing to help you build your resilience, and just become an overall build up your well-being is I say N for notate your mind state, which really is about journaling. And journaling, like meditation, has plenty of there's plenty of research around the benefits of journaling. I said it helps you backwards and forwards. It helps you backwards in that you can reflect back on, just like how we're talking here, and we're kind of walking through it. Helps you reflect back on all that you've come through, and that helps you realize, well, I got through that. I'm still here, right? You can touch yourself. I'm still here.
Oh, here.
And
for a reason, put myself to good use.
Absolutely. And then looking forward, it gives you hope for the future, knowing that, well, I got through that. I can certainly get through what I'm getting through. I'm going through. So I'll be okay.
And by sharing your story, this is why one of the reasons I do the podcast, by all these people sharing their stories of how they overcame adversity, it helps other people say, if Michael can do it, I can do it.
Absolutely. This is, folks, this really, nothing special about me. You can get through your stuff as well. I used to say, if you implement your plan, it's a surefire way of overcoming your adversity. Now, after living and learning, there are plenty of ways to skin a cat, right? I'm offering a plan to you all who are watching and listening as as a way. Might not be the way. It worked for me. It's worked for others, and it could possibly work for you as well.
Well, I say, because you're a coach, right? You coach people on this. And so I coach people on some similar things. And I just tell people, look, there's plenty of coaches. You find one that I think having a coach is really, really important. I finally realized the value of a coach when the Navy gave me one when I made senior executives. I was like, wow, she helped me tremendously, Marcia Richard. And that's when I realized the value of a coach. And I think that, if I had had one even earlier in my career, it would have been helpful. So you've just got to make sure that you find one that resonates with you. And that maybe has been through something similar, or, you feel like you have, you can tell when you have a connection with somebody, you feel like you have a connection, you feel like you can understand what they're talking about and how they're saying it and the words they're using. Somebody else might not use plan, they might use something else, but it's just the way you approach it. Somebody who's maybe lost a child or a father could really resonate with you. That's not happened to me, so I can't really coach in that. So, that's what some of the things to look for when you're working on finding a coach. Mm-hmm. But I definitely think coaches are awesome. And let me put this banner up. You have a book out. It's an Amazon bestseller, Speaking My Truth, 50 real life stories that inspire, empower, heal, and transform. Are these your stories?
So one of those stories are mine. So there are 49 other people that talk about their stories as well. So you get a bunch of really inspiring stories that will help you go through, get through what you're going through.
Wow, that's 49 more people I could have on my podcast.
There you go.
Well, I'm so backed up. I could, don't send those 9 people to me right now.
I'll try not to.
Fortunately, I'm backed up with guests, but and you want it's better support small business, right? Yes. Better to get your book from your website. So go to your website. That's the best way to support Michael is hire him as a coach, but also go to his website there. Is that spelled wrong?
MICHAE. No, that's correct, Jackson. MichaelKJackson.com.
Okay, Michael. Okay, got it. Yep. I copied it from what you said. Okay, good. So, do you cover this plan in your book, or is it more something that's come out since you wrote your book?
Great question. So in this particular book, it's an anthology, so space was limited. So I basically laid out the plan framework for folks. So if you want to kind of learn a little bit more about plan, you can read that in the book. I also am working on my own full-fledged book where I'll kind of talk more deeply about, share some of the stories that we talked about today, and really go more in depth into each step in that, each of those 4 steps in plan. So look out for that here shortly, probably in coming out in 2022.
2022, because this is like a part-time job for you, right? Because you also have a full-time job.
Full-time job. I'm a faithful public servant. So life is all about service, you know, and that's one thing we didn't even talk about, Emily. You know, the fact that I'm an Air Force veteran, your Navy, and I know we talked about this offline. That you know, I come from a long line of Navy men, but decided to be different and go into the Air Force.
Yeah, I know. That was probably a smart move, though.
Hey, my late father is the one that encouraged me to make that decision. So
Yeah, he was smart. Anita says, great insight and values shared here. Much success and many blessings ahead.
thank
Yes,
you, Anita.
I agree with that. And then Scott Rogers said, that is truth. When we were talking about embracing the suck, when you don't embrace the suck, it gets stronger. Yeah, you try to push it aside and not deal with it. And you know, people have different ways of doing that. And I know my way of doing that was to be really busy. I have a tendency to be a hyperachiever and just go, 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 go. And then when I do that, I don't have to deal with my feelings. I stay really busy. Not good.
Yeah.
Scott says he would like to reach out to more veterans and their specific issues. Any insights?
Yeah, there are a couple of organizations that I can certainly link you up with, Scott. You're chatting from LinkedIn, so shoot me a message, connect with me on LinkedIn, Scott, and I'll be happy to connect you with some resources for sure.
Yeah,
yeah,
good. Helping veterans is something that's definitely worthwhile to do. I mentor them through Veterati, and so that's one good way, but I know that there's many others. So I'm glad you're going to help out, Scott. And thanks, Scott, for wanting to help veterans too.
Yep.
So what's next for you? You've got this book coming out. You also like to go and speak about this, right?
Yeah. So I'm looking to do more speaking engagements and really get this message out and help more people. So you know, whoever's watching, if you are a meeting professional, you know, any meeting professionals, you know, tell them about me.
Yeah.
I want to get this message out to more people.
You gonna do a TED Talk?
That's in the works. That's on the books. I want that's definitely on the books. Look out for a TED Talk from me.
Well, you're a veteran where you learn how to plan, right? And your plan is plan. Your thing that you've written up is plan. Yep. So I'm sure you have a short and a long range plan about where you're going next. Speaking, TED Talks, you know, writing your next book.
Absolutely.
You got it all planned out.
Absolutely. But, you know, I will say this too, that there's a proverb that says, you know, many are the plans in a man's heart, but the Lord's purpose will prevail. So, you know, I'm following his lead on this. And I've found by experience that that's kind of the best way for me to go, at least anyway, because I've all these plans and grandiose ideas. And oftentimes, you know, doors are slammed in your face. And here's an object lesson: doors are slammed in your face. But you know, my mother would always tell me, and you know, it's an old saying that as one door closes, another one opens. So just in terms of a word about persistence, and a word about resilience in the face of adversity. Just keep pressing. And one thing about going back to step 1, 2 about prayer is that, you know, your prayers are always answered, right? It just may take a while for that to come to fruition. You know, I'm a living, breathing example of that in so many different ways.
I'm in a coaching program with a guy named Shazad Shamin. He wrote the best-selling book called Positive Intelligence. And one of the things he said today in our coaching program was, you know, we need to, can you be friends with life? Life is always throwing stuff at us, right?
Yeah.
And imagine what life is throwing at us, because we have our plan. Everything's planned to get, you know, for today and for your life. But like you said, it doesn't always go the way we planned. So life throws something at us. Imagine what it's throwing at us, or that door shutting, is a gift. that's in your hand?
Yeah.
And can you open it up, and can you be appreciative of that gift? Can you look at it as a gift and appreciate it instead of fighting life? We're always kind of fighting it, pushing back. Well, that's not what I wanted, or that traffic's in my way. Well, maybe the traffic is preventing you from being in an accident down the road. I mean, so can you be compassionate and find the gift or the opportunity in whatever life throws us, and stop fighting life and go with the flow?
That goes back to leaning in and listening for the lesson. And as I always say, and as I said earlier, making adversity your advisor, not your adversary. That's basically pretty much the same concept. Yes.
Yeah. Before this call, I was on a call with a mastermind that I'm in, and the guy that's talking was from China, and he was talking about the Tao, and he was talking about yin and yang, and just how they look at it. And they look at life going through the flow, and a fish might jump out of water, but they tend to swim with the current, right? And if you jump out, you can't just keep doing that all the time. You can't keep fighting the current. So just a lot of the analogies he was using were, even though he's from China or whatever, it's like the way you can look at life, and you can just, somebody might resonate with him, somebody might resonate with you, but find somebody that that expands your way of thinking and challenges you and pushes you outside the boundaries, because it's hard to do that on your own.
On your own, absolutely. It's very difficult to do it on your own. So definitely connect with resources. And that goes back to A for act accordingly. It's not just about helping others, but it's also about connecting with resources as well. Because there's a plethora of resources out there sometimes, and we haven't even, talked about this. So there's that psychological impact, that hits us when we go through stuff. And, there's fears, doubts, worries, anxieties. And we have to be able to embrace what we're going through, right? And realize we have to come to a point too that if we can't, I'm the biggest proponent of leaning on God, but at the same time, if you need a therapist, or if you need to seek professional help because of your depression or your anxiety, I'm a big advocate for taking advantage of resources that are available as well.
Yeah, we definitely got to take action. It's a combination of prayer, meditation, listening to your intuition, however you want to call it, taking action.
Yep. Faith without works is dead. So you got to take action.
Right.
Got to take action. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely. And be creative about it. Sometimes we're just like stuck in our little box and don't have a way of thinking of something. This is a minor thing, but one of the things I sometimes struggle with is writing for my business, the emails, or I'm trying to write a book, and it's like, it's not the thing that I get all excited about. I want to do it, but I don't really always do it. And so somebody reached out. What we do now is I get on Zoom with 3 other women. I've never met them in person. And we are on Zoom and we say, okay, what are you going to work on for this next hour and a half? What are you going to work on? What are you going to work on? And then we turn the mic off, unmute, and turn off the camera, and we just write. And one day, the first day we did it, we check in every half an hour, and someone was keeping time, and she's like, where is everyone? And I nearly jumped out of my seat because I was so much in flow and so focused. That's a way to be resilient and overcome, a procrastinating or a challenge you're having. So think outside of the box.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Be curious,
Yeah.
Be curious.
Yeah. So, I can't see who the Facebook user is, but whoever posted that said, I want to do a TED Talk too. I'll check my Facebook later to see.
You can. I believe you can.
You want to do it? You can do it.
Yeah. Mindset is so crucial. You know this, Emily. It's really all about mindset.
No, it definitely is.
Yeah.
So this is your Facebook, and Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all the same handle, right?
Yep, MK Jackson, INTL. Yep, I'm mainly a LinkedIn user, so if you all are on LinkedIn, please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. But as Emily just shared, you have my other handles as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. Let me just check and see if we have any more questions. Is there anything else that I didn't ask you that you wished I had asked, or a point that you want to make?
Again, I just leave the folks with this thought about, I keep hammering home, make adversity your advisor, not your adversary. You're gonna experience struggles and troubles. Shoot, we all have gone through, still kind of to a degree, we're coming out, but a global pandemic, right? We're always gonna be faced with adverse circumstances. I think that the key to it all is how you view that, and it's an old adage, but it's not the circumstances; it's how you view the circumstances. That's easy to say, a little bit more difficult to do, though, and that's why you have to equip yourself with the tools to be able to do so. But it's all about how you see it.
Definitely, and you can change how you see it if you want to.
Absolutely. You are already equipped with what's necessary, with what it takes to actually get through what you're going through. You have to believe that.
And that's your book, Speaking My Truth, but get it from his website, Speaking My Truth, 50 Real Stories That Inspire, Empower, Heal, and Transform. And then you can get it from Michael's website.
Jackson.com. Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. Let's see. We have one more comment here. Scott says, I am now re-energized. Thank you. Good. And I'm glad you're reaching out to Michael.
I'm glad you're re-energized.
Yeah.
We all need we all need that boost. And it's really about, when we get low, just know that, you practice prayer, meditation, lean in and listen, act accordingly, and notate your mind state to pick yourself back up. And it's gonna be cyclical. We're not gonna stay. Life doesn't work that way. So when you dip, you just implement. I encourage y'all to implement your plan, and that's a way to get re-energized.
Yeah, and then hang out with like-minded people. Take a look at the people that you're hanging out with. Are they bringing you down? Are they building you up? Are they helping you with where you want to go? Are they supportive of where you want to go? And, I live alone with my dog. My dog is kind of supportive, but not really. And so that's why I'm in masterminds with other people, and we hold each other accountable. What are you going to do over the next, that writing was, what are you going to do in this hour and a half? But the other part is, what are you going to accomplish in the next week? What are you going to accomplish in the next week? And you have to report back. Did you do it or not? And for some people that might work. Some people it might not. But figure out what works for you. You're not alone.
Exactly. That's the key right there. You're not alone. Oftentimes when we're going through stuff, we feel alone. So we, we feel various emotions, like we feel alone, and we almost kind of do it to ourselves, and that you almost want to, pull back and stick your head in the sand. Trust me, I've been there. But know that you're not alone, and know that, what you're experiencing is not unique to you either. You're not alone.
Right. Thank you, Michael. I'm going to end the broadcast, and you can just stay for a second. But absolutely. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for watching and participating and asking questions. We appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.